All without fans, isn't it? You play a football match without fans, isn't it? It can be the greatest game in the world. If there are no people there to watch it, it becomes nothing.
Into Johnston. Johnson. And a corner Larson. Oh, he's in! Henrik Larsson! That is sensational! Nakamura! He has done it! Isn't that just typical?
The game is over. The Rebels have won.
A star is born at Celtic!
Champions. That's who we are.
Very good afternoon to one and all. Thank you very much for joining us on the Jungle Gyms podcast. We've just seen a great result. Paisley, Celtic 5, St Mirren 1. St Mirren up 1-0 at half time, and then 5 second half goals by Celtic. Absolutely emphatic turnaround. James McGinty, how are we doing? And what do you make of that?
Game of two halves,
And then some, James. I kind of wanted Paddy to start this one because I'm aware Paddy only saw the second half. I'd love to get his opinions on it and then watch me and James come in and just be like, nah, that first half was pish.
Yeah, so as I spoke to the guys before, I actually missed the first half, regrettably. Had to go and do a wee bit of work that ran over. But fortunately, managed to get in for the good half by the sounds of it. So I'm going to leave the first half analysis to you guys. So who wants to take it?
Shite. I think that sums it up, to be honest with you.
Just shite.
It really wasn't a great game of football. As far as we're concerned as a squad of players in a football club and what we didn't do anywhere near enough. I'm not going to do this justice as Gavin would normally break this down play by play as best he can, minute by minute. But the game started the way that we all feared. They got a penalty decision, which, for the record, in any other season, you would say, fair enough, you can see how it would be given, but it would be harsh. But see, this season with VAR, that's not a penalty. If you're a certain player called Goldson, you don't get given that against you. But we do. And that set the tone for me throughout the rest of the half. They get the penalty. Not their fault. Deservedly get it for their own sake. They score. Well done. We move on. But the game is consistently disrupted throughout that half. The referee is even time wasting himself. He's not performing his own basic duties. There's a handball about halfway through the second half from the St Mirren player, about halfway line on the far touch side. Handball, he blows for the foul for it. St Mirren player boots the ball to the other side of the pitch, doesn't do anything about it. Yet in the second half, he books a player for kicking the ball away. So the ref's aware what he's doing. We then get to later on in this first half where we get to our penalty claim. And again, I'm going to be tinfoil hat on kind of guy. You've got a moment where it's a red card. It's a last man effort of a foul. He's pulling on him. His arms pressing against him. It's outside the box to begin with. But the contact remains up until at least the line, if not slightly a quarter or half yard into it. With VAR, you see that that's actually a penalty. And I'll go back to it again. Tillman, about 3 weeks ago, gets the same thing against Partick Thistle. So where's the consistency? But that's the story of the first half for me, of the breakdown in momentum, the breakdown in playing football. There's no rhythm to our game because we're never allowed to get it going. But the players generally didn't feel like they wanted to. But you know what happened? Second half happened. And what a fucking half that was. The whole, literally, game of two halves, a whole different ball game.
Right, well, before we go into the second half, I'm just seeing James sitting there with his lovely the third strip. So obviously, before the game had even kicked off, there was a bit of controversy in terms of the strips. So Celtic were obviously playing today in that lovely jersey that James is modelling downstairs. But the controversy was that St Mirren were obviously due to play in their home kit, which is fair enough, which is to be expected when you're playing at home. But as we saw the last time that Celtic played in Paisley, which ironically was the last time that anybody's beat Celtic domestically, there was a very much a colour clash of kits. Me myself, I was watching on the phone. I had a prior engagement, so I was trying to kind of tune in on the side, and genuinely I had to turn it off after about 5 minutes because I couldn't see who was who. So McGinty, we were talking about that before the game, and then obviously the word came through that the referee had actually saw some kind of sense and decided to try and kind of alleviate that issue for a lot of people by getting St Mirren to change the other strip. So James, what was your first thoughts when you heard about the strips that was getting used?
6-0 for us, isn't it? I know the grey kit gets slaughtered. I actually don't mind that. Obviously, coming up against St Mirren, it kind of defeats the purpose and you can't tell the difference. But surely somebody sits down within Celtic, must sit down with Adidas and suss this out. Because as we were saying this morning as well, it happened at Easter Road a few years ago. We had three kits and every kit was a different shade of green. Surely somebody sits down with somebody for Adidas and says, look, we're going to run into problems at some point. It's just, I don't know, it seems pretty basic to me, but I think St Mirren will give them their due for that, for swap them. Obviously, they could have dug their heels in for all that would have mattered, but is what it is, mate. Is what it is.
See, to be fair though, James, I don't think, I know this isn't exactly what you're saying, but I don't think this was St Mirren's issue, nor was it Celtic's. Ange came out this morning, I believe it was this morning, they came out when they decided what kit we were going to have to play. The ref made the call, and the ref actually decided home shirt for St Mirren, the grey one for Celtic. And it wasn't until there's a bit of social media backlash about it, because we all know how piss poor that was in this fixture in September. Not just because we got beat, but because it literally was hard for the players. I think the manager made comment about how piss poor it was to try and tell the difference at the time. So common sense prevailed, but I think it was actually, it felt like it came from St Mirren to say, look, that's not going to work. And the outcome was that the referee then decided which way it was going to be, who plays home, who plays away, sort of thing. And to be fair, I know one of the comments is asking why couldn't we wear the hoops there from plunge. We were the away team. I think it would probably be a little bit disrespectful if we showed up in the hoops and forced them to change. But the fact that two clubs changed is, for me, the common sense in the moment. The bigger common sense is, James says, somebody sits down with Adidas and says, look, we need X amount of strips. We're never going to be allowed to play a green-white hoops against anybody else who has white in their strip. So Hibs, St Mirren, never going to be allowed to play against Kilmarnock. Can't play against them, and that's it. So we need an away kit, which is fine, but it can't be black and it can't be grey. Lesson must be learned from this one that we need something different. The default should be really yellow.
Well, I mean, there's obviously loads of different colours, but that's a conversation for another time. But I think something I wanted to ask you about the kit was, obviously, as I mentioned earlier on, the last time Celtic used that kit, which was I think was actually the first time domestically that we'd used it, was against Paisley, against St Mirren and Paisley, and that would have been around about September time. Obviously, St Mirren won that, and there's been this kind of talk about the kit being a kind of a jinx, a hoodoo, but today we've obviously proved that to be absolute nonsense. We've also proved to be absolute nonsense the fact that there's been a lot of media spin since St Mirren won that game in Paisley about Stephen Robinson having the key to success against Celtic, other managers coming to ask him, and all this absolute gumph, how do we beat Celtic? Let's go and ask Stephen Robinson. Well, today has shown that don't ask him, because we've beat them 5-1. Yes, they were winning 1-0 up to half-time, but whatever Ange Postecoglou says to the team at half-time certainly proved to be, I would imagine, to be the rocket up the arse that the guys needed. Now, as I say, I never saw the first game, so we won't go into too much about the first half, because apparently, according to you guys, it was absolutely rubbish. But just somebody jump in and talk me through the Charles Dunn red card. How did that come about?
Before we go into that, just I want to reply to Stephen Kelly here, as a guy who obviously does like to get into his football kits a wee bit myself. The story that I understand it is, if everybody's aware, Adidas, Nike, etc., they love going for a fourth kit or special edition kit. If you look at Napoli, I think one season they had 11 different outfield kits in one season. It is mental. The way the world's going just now, it's all obviously money and commercialisation. From what I understand, it is a one-off kit for St Paddy's Day. Whether or not we play it against Hibs is yet to be seen. If we do, that would be fantastic. but I would dare imagine there might be a kit clash colour there. But the shirt that I think Stephen's referring to is one that's a polo shirt collar, a dark green, almost similar, Paddy, to the green that you've got on there. We tricolour on the collar and tricolour on the cuff of the sleeve. Not the turn up that Nike had, but just a tricolour around it. And then it's the original clover crest that they had on the black shirt for the first Adidas one. Yep, similar. Not quite that, but similar. With the Adidas logo on the other side. The Daffa bit is also a secondary tone of green, so it doesn't quite black it out, but it's two-tone green sort of thing. So it actually looks pretty damn smart. A kit that I think most of us will end up loving and buying. I don't know if it's going to be played in a Hibs game or not. It would be good if it would, because if you're going to make a special edition shirt, you have to at least play it at once. So let's hope it is.
Well, I think as a man that loves his football kits, I'm pretty sure you'll be getting your Provi one to get one.
Just a little bit. I've not actually bought one from this season yet. I've got last couple of years, obviously, but I've not bought one this season yet. Kind of somewhat buy that many football shirts that I refuse to pay full price at times. Not to be cheap, but you know, if you're going to flaunt your money, you have to kind of pick your battles with it. But this one, I think if it does get a general release, I think this is one that I'll just happily pay full price and get it done with.
Nice one. James, Charles done red card.
Aye.
Let's talk to that one, buddy.
I think I'm going to actually disagree with McGinty. I didn't think it was a penalty. Watching it in real time, I thought it was a free kick. I was actually surprised when he gave the penalty, and I was expecting it to be reviewed. It's a stonewall red card. It's absolutely a red card. That's not up for debate. But I think he's clever. Obviously, he's got himself sent off, but I think he's clever enough in the fact that for me, he's stopped fouling him just shy of the line, and Keogh kind of falls into the box. It is close, but for me, I don't think either of them were penalties. I think the Greg Taylor one's a bit of a joke as well. It does come off his horn. It's at the side eye, but as McGinty says, we've seen it for our teams this season, and it's just waved on. But nah, stonewall red card, but I don't think any of them were penalties.
Yeah, I don't want to ramble on too much, but I would disagree with we are penalty claim purely based on the fact of, in fact, I do want to agree with you because clearly the foul starts about 2 yards outside the box.
Right.
But it does actually continue at least onto the line. And when you consider what they've used VAR for in the previous games, for favour of that other club, then it's beggars belief why VAR and the time taken to decide it, they're not getting the consistency there. It's either, if it's a foul on the line, which we can all Google, and you Google it very quickly, a foul on the line is a penalty. That foul happened on the line for me, if not a slightly in. We would have to see so many more replays, James, to make sure that it was technically on or technically just out. When did the hand get released and all that nonsense? So I'll give you that benefit of the doubt. You would check. But there needs to be consistency because Tillman can't get that, and then yet you chalk off a Celtic, and vice versa with the penalty against Taylor. You can't give that against Taylor, but you didn't give us the first one in the first game against Hearts with VAR, with James Forrest kicked the ball and the guy's hands down to the side here and it hits his hand, but you don't give us that. But you give it against us for Taylor today. But how many has Goldson got away with? Where his hands are out in front of them and shit like that. The consistency is woeful. And that's my whole argument about the whole thing. Both decisions on the face of it, you can say, yeah, fair enough. But there's no consistency whatsoever. Anyway.
Well, I think that perfectly sums up the first half. Obviously, you guys saw it. I didn't. Tell me, was any of you guys watching it on Sky Sports?
Yes, on the Sky Go.
Right, and what was the reaction of Fat Boy Chris Boyd?
So, weirdly enough, you're going to hate this, Paddy, but Andy Walker was spot on.
No, I refuse to hear
with
it.
With both penalty calls, he is spot on because he says it's not a penalty against Taylor, and that the same as myself, the foul continues onto the line, at least, and it should be a penalty for Celtic. He was spot on, in my opinion. However, Fat Boy Boyd sat there, so boys in the middle, whoever the pundit host was on Boyd's left. I'm not sure how this works on the camera while we were looking, but the pundit on Boyd's left is hosting, and Walker's on Boyd's right. Walker gives his piece, Boyd comes in and gives his piece, and he looks not straight at the camera, but he's looking down, and he says his piece, and he doesn't move his head an inch. He finishes talking, and Walker comes in to say his rebuttal to it, and he just stares kind of. If he was trying to make eye contact with the camera, he stares down, and he doesn't move. And that says it all. His body language was, I'm just saying what I need to see, and I'm not looking at you, because if I look at you, I know I'm going to get found out for talking absolute fucking bollocks.
All right, that'll do for me then. So obviously the first half, as you guys have said, wasn't the greatest in terms of production for Celtic. Obviously we went into the break 1-0 down. Was there any kind of standout players that you thought should have been taken off or changed at half time? Because obviously the first substitution that was made today by Celtic was Abada came on for Maeda. So anybody that stood out to come off?
I think for the first half, the three for me, I actually said in the group chat at half time as well, I thought the three for me was Maeda, Kyogo and Aaron Moy. Jota, it was poor, but it felt as if everything that we'd done going forward, granted obviously nothing came of it, it felt as if Jota was involved in it, so I would have probably left him on for the kind of first maybe 15-20 minutes of the second half to see if the team picked up as a whole. But after the back of the first half, Kyogo was a passenger, Aaron Moy was a passenger, and I don't think Maeda touched the ball, so I would have taken the three off. I wouldn't have brought Abada on, I would have went for Haksabanovic first over Abada, but what do I know? Obviously Abada's come on and changed the game.
Again, are you happy to see Abada coming on? I know you're a big fan of him.
Yes. What is the stat I heard during the game there when Jota scored? Is 18 assists and 18 goals for Jota this season. That's absolutely phenomenal. I know we're talking about Abada, but then the stat for Abada came on as well. It's like 18 sub appearances, and yet he still scored double figures and however many assists he's got. The pair of these guys, I know Jota was getting it absolutely tight in the first half. He shut a few people up in the second half. Once he got his goal, he really came on to a great game, so he did. But Abada coming on definitely changed it. The first half's, well, the halftime sub was crucial, and whatever the fuck Ange said in his team talk was absolutely crucial. Forget about the fact that they were doing to 10 men. They were parking the bus, 2 banks of 4, 8 people behind the ball sort of thing. So that never really changed. What changed was having a slight advantage of extra man, but you're still trying to break it down. But our play changed in the second half. We started being more gung-ho. We started playing football. We started being more direct with it. We started making the runs and laying the balls off. You saw Taylor further down the left side without Maeda there. And I don't mean to bitch or slate Maeda, but it was probably the best substitution was taking Maeda off because that allowed Taylor to get forward on the left, which we saw for the last game against them. That's where one of the goals came from. And it allowed the rest of the team as well to be a bit more direct, having Abada there and Jota back on the left. It all just worked. It was a brilliant substitution to make, but it probably should have started from the first half, that one. That should have been... You shouldn't start Jota on the right. Maeda's not a winger at the end of the day, isn't it? You know?
Well, that was actually something I was going to ask, but we'll do is we'll save that conversation later because it's kind of wee bit.
Sorry, I'm all over the place.
No, it's absolutely perfect that you mentioned that because it reminded me of a question I wanted to ask you. But again, we'll leave it to later on. Obviously, once we get the second half talk out the way. But obviously, Abada comes on for Maeda. Second half begins. Now, when I first saw the second half, guys, I'd obviously, again, the hard point, I'd missed the first half. But I saw the score when I got in, when I went through my phone. Saw that we were getting beat 1-0, so I was expecting to hear, the first half was a bit of a turgid affair. And then when the second half began, I thought it kind of started off that way. There was a few misplaced passes. There was one went out to Jota on the left-hand side. The ball was kind of passed straight to him, and he saw it trickling underneath his feet, and he's looking down as if to say, oh, how did I miss that? And I'm thinking to myself, God, is this the way the second half's going to be? Is it going to be one of these long days at the office? But maybe about 30 seconds to a minute after that, you could see that the tempo had started to up. Obviously, the fact that St Mirren were down to 10 men must have helped in some respect. But to tie in with what you're saying, McGinty, you could see the way that St Mirren were lining up. There was at least 9 bodies in the kind of defensive areas every time that Celtic had a go. But obviously, it was like the Alamo at times for them. But starting off, the goal for Jota on 56 minutes, James. Obviously delighted to see Celtic bringing it back to 1 each. What was your thoughts on Jota's goal? As sloppy as it was.
I said that at first as well. I thought it was really, really scrappy until I seen the replay. But he's done really well. He actually kind of do what he does, basically, to get a shot off and get it on target. He actually takes it really well. But I think obviously that was what was needed, because I was the same as you. I remember what you're talking about when the ball just rolled out his foot and went out for a shy, and exact same as you. I'm like, it's just going to be one of these days. Obviously, just off the back of the first half as well. But no, they went on to kick on. If you told me at that point it was going to end up 5-1, I would have laughed at you. But different class for there, and obviously that gave us the incentive to go on and fire it into them.
No, it was a brilliant response for the team. And obviously getting a goal that early into the second half, it gives you that kind of emphasis to march on and obviously try and go ahead, which Celtic ultimately done in the 64th minute. I think, well, obviously we now know it was a goal by Johnson at the start. Upon replay, it looks as if it comes off a defender's back. I can't remember the guy's name for the life of me. If anybody in the comments wants to jump in and tell us who it was, because apparently it's now going down as an own goal. But apart from that, it was great to see Johnson scoring a goal, because that guy's played out his skin the last month or two for Celtic. And right away at the start of the second half, you could see him. He was getting forward. He was driving the ball. Even when he scored the goal, he was like that. And the guy looks absolutely fucking ripped to shreds, man. He looks stronger, I think, since he's come in. So I'm really, really happy that he was obviously involved in a goal. But gutted that the goal's been taken off him. But McGinty, Celtic go 2-1 up. What's your thoughts then?
At that point, it's a big sigh of relief. Sorry to keep going back to the state of the first half, but obviously first half was an absolute turgid affair. The game was broken up. We couldn't get a flow going. We couldn't play our football. Everything was just shit. But once that second goal goes in, I think we all probably did the same thing, taking that sigh of relief, thinking, thank fuck, we're in the lead. 2 goals that, on the face of it, look scrappy as fuck. I'm disappointed to hear that Alistair Johnston's not getting credited for that goal. It will come, though. His goal will come eventually if that's the case. But for me, that was Alistair Johnston's goal. The ball from Moy was absolutely fine. It wasn't equality, but it was absolutely fine. And it's what you expect from Moy nowadays. As James might hopefully agree with me, Moy is not the player that you think is outstanding, world class. He's going to turn a game or rest it. You see what Moy does do and what he's proven since the World Cup. He's consistent and he can deliver. What you expect from him, he will deliver that. So long as the rest of the team's on par, it's all good. And see his free kicks and his deliveries and his set pieces, they're not as spectacular, but everybody knows what he's going to do. They're not mediocre, then a really great ball, then shite. It's consistency. And Alistair Johnston gives himself at the back post and he does what he needs to do. Second goal goes in. Big sigh of relief. Absolutely happy to see it go in. And without stealing your thunder, Paddy, but from that point on, the goals roll in. The game becomes so much more easier for us, and it's a second half that we're actually enjoying the football. We're seeing players come on off the bench, the likes of which we'll touch on later on, but we're seeing the team then click. We're seeing the tempo and the momentum go in our favour. It's all, in fact, that whole second half is practically all Celtic's ball. Did Hart even touch the ball in the second half? Is the question I need to ask when you think about it. Did he actually? But that just changed it. Getting that second goal quite quickly, quite early on, that changes everything. The pressure's off us. You see it in the players. You see it in Taylor getting forward on the left side. You see it with Abada on the right. He's having the joy and the freedom to drive at players. Everything starts to click and everything starts to work. It was a brilliant moment to get that second goal.
So the goal goes in and automatically the momentum's back with Celtic. There was 2 subs by St Mirren. Obviously Tony Mott was one of them. And in between that there was O'Reilly came on for Kyogo. And O came on for Hatate. So after that, back to you, McGinty, for this one. Sorry, James. Abada pops up with the third goal. Now, For me, again, I've spoken about this many times now. In my opinion, I don't think he's as effective on the wing as what he is when he's through the centre. Now, I know that the goal kind of came through him being on the wider area, but he was still more central than he would have been as a winger. But again, all credit to Abada. He gets the ball and he hits an absolute sweet strike right across the face of Carson and makes it 3-1. Credible turnaround, very quickly on the second half. McGinty, take it away. You love Abada, so let
I do, and it's such a typical Abada goal. The drive, I think he has a step over in there as well at some point, and then the driving low shot across the face of the goalkeeper to take it away from him. It's a typical Abada goal. It's what we've came to expect from him at times when he's making those runs and those drives. The great thing about Abada now, again, since the World Cup break, is he's actually put himself in positions where either one of two things happen. That goal there, where he actually was crowded by a lot of players, but he still had the ability, talent, and confidence to take the shot off. Or he actually is adding the ability to take it to the byline a little bit, to beat his man. I was going to say turn his man, to beat his man and get a ball in. But anyway, that's another thing. But his goal was a brilliant goal, typical Abada style. His instinct for that goal is phenomenal, and that's why he's got so many. Just that drive, and he knows where he wants to put the ball. He knows he's not hitting it straight to the keeper most times. He does sometimes. But he knows what he's doing with that all day long. He knows what he's going to do, and it's a fantastic move from him. He's a fantastic little player. I agree with you. He's not a winger, and neither is Maeda. But Abada's more of a winger than Maeda is, to be fair. But I hope this comes across properly, and it seems a bit of a weird one to hark back to Georgios Samaras. They see how Samaras on the left wing was also never a fucking winger, but he's like an inside forward. Like if you're playing an out and out striker, with an inside forward on the left and an inside forward on the right, not hugging wingers but inside forwards, Samaras and somebody like Dembele and Abada as a front three would be absolutely lethal with the way that Samaras and Abada can drive straight forward, make themselves a little bit of space, but get off a fucking what looks like sometimes a fucking weird ass fucking weak shot, but it's actually a really fucking ingenious moment of placing the ball at times. He's a fantastic little player. Much more things to add to his game. A lot to learn and develop. But for 21 years old, I think he still is an absolute fantastic wee player.
And I tell you what, you won't hear any negatives for me today about Abada, because I think
good.
Looking from the outside, the guy was one of the game changers. Obviously, James's favourite player, Aaron Moy, had assisted that goal. So Haksabanovic then comes on for Jota, and taking us up to the 72nd minute, Matt O'Reilly pops up with the fourth goal, assisted by your man Abada. James, were you? Sounds like a silly question, but were you confident after O'Reilly scored?
But I needed the fifth just to settle my nerves. It's just good to see O'Reilly starting to get back in amongst the goals. I know obviously he's been kind of, I don't say struggling, because he has been all right, but he's just... Is that
his first goal of the season, his second goal?
I think it's his second. Did he not score a couple of weeks ago? I can't remember who it was against, but he did score a couple of weeks ago. I'm sure it might even have been in the cup, actually. I'm sure he scored. I can't remember who it was, but it's just good to see him getting back in amongst the goals, and hopefully he can keep that up and get... I'll not say he'll get to the heights of last season, because it'd be a pretty hard task, but hopefully he can reach that level again and kick on for next season, because obviously we heard the rumours as well about him being off skiing the summer potentially, so hopefully he can kick on and stay here next year.
Absolutely. So that was 4-1, 72 minutes, Celtic in cruise control, but guess what, they stepped up another gear, and on the 81st minute, penalty at Celtic, something you don't usually hear this season. There was a wee bit, I think, was it yourself, guys, that was saying to give it to Haksabanovic, but in the end, O stood up, took the penalty, went from the start of the game, oh no, to oh yes, here we go. Confident penalty, I may add, down to Carson's left-hand side. he had a weird bit. He kind of had a weird kind of hop, skip, a jump, a run up. But again, he looked confident when he stood up to take it. And I think for me, when I saw O's overall performance when he came on, he put himself about. He's a big lad. He's a big unit, which is something that surprised me. And he's the type of player that I think that you need in games like this. You know, when you're going to be coming and playing in a tight, compact pitch, the team's going to try and squeeze you out by playing ultra defensive, parting the bus, if you want to call it that. But certainly compacting their banks. And you've got guys like Kyogo, who's, by the way, he's a brilliant, brilliant finisher. Scored so many important goals for the club. But when you see a game like today, it's always kind of in the back of my mind, you know, that Kyogo's going to struggle a wee bit when he's coming up against big defenders. And as much as the game evolves and as much as Celtic have got a fluent play attack, there's always a kind of elemental aspect of the game where I still think that you need to be able to get in about and mix it up strength-wise. So I was delighted to see O coming on, delighted to see him getting stuck in about it, and obviously delighted to see him getting his first domestic goal for Celtic. Obviously scored in the cup. So, guys, what's the thoughts on O then? Obviously his performance today and in general.
Yeah, I think today, in fact, overall, as John says, he's still a bit raw, isn't he? We never said the same about Giakoumakis, but similar to Giakoumakis, I think it took us a little while to see the offers that something different from Kyogo, and that we actually need that. I don't think anybody expected O to be as strong as he is. He doesn't get brushed off too easily. He still needs to learn probably the more rough and tumble of the Scottish game, but he doesn't get brushed off the ball too easily. And I think he'll get better and better. But what I'm seeing from O so far, he's a confident lad. He's shown for the ball. He wants the ball played into him, and he can hold it up. Is he as good as Giakoumakis? No, not at all. But he's offering a similar change in style and a similar kind of out ball. But I think he's got the potential to be more technically gifted than what Giakoumakis was, which I can't believe I said his name, I think, correctly 3 times. Palmer's not here to see it, and the fucker's left us already. I mean, Giakoumakis has left us, not Palmer.
I think he looks very similar to Giakoumakis in his early days at Celtic, only was scoring his penalties. But I said it on here before, he's a bit kind of bull in a china shop is the impression I get from him. Maybe not so much the day because it was quite compact, but I know it's like his first touch maybe sometimes isn't great, but he doesn't lose the ball. He'll bump somebody out the way and keep a hold of it. And for me, very, very similar to, as I say, Giakoumakis' early days at Celtic. Obviously, he turned out no bad, so hopefully maybe the same for O as well. But I've been impressed so far.
Do you think obviously one of the issues with Giakoumakis, well, for me, one of the key issues was the fact that he wasn't getting so much game time. Obviously, Kyogo was Ange's go-to man. But Giakoumakis was 27, 28 at this time, whereas O is like, 21, 22. So there's more scope for him to develop at the club. So obviously that would then entail, you would imagine, that he's more happy to be a squad player rather than demanding a start straight away. Obviously, it's his first foray into Europe as well as a player. So how do we see Ange fitting him into the first team? You know, obviously he's got to earn it first and foremost. But do you think that O's the type of player who can be flung on in games like this? You know, where you're going to need a bit of strength, a bit of guile, a bit of kind of the rough and tumble kind of stuff. Or does he try and become the successor to Kyogo, if you want? Does he try and dispose him of his place?
I think he needs to try to replace Kyogo. If he wants to be taken seriously as the number one choice as striker, I think he needs to try not to emulate Kyogo, but also not to emulate Giakoumakis. He needs to be a blend of both. because clearly Ange likes Kyogo and Ange fits the philosophy and the style of Ange's football. O's not gonna give you that straight away. Giakoumakis was never giving you the fluency and the running that Ange wants from his team. Kyle gives him exactly what he needs, exactly what he wants. But it's brilliant to see that Ange understands he needs something different. So if O wants to be the number one striker in Celtic under Ange Postecoglou, he's going to have to be a strong player because he is a physically a presence of a player. But he's going to have to work on his technical side. He's more agile side to be able to run with the to link the play quite well with the midfields and the wide men. He's going to have to make himself not Kyogo-esque, but almost a blend of both to say, look, I can do it all and I can work both. Because inevitably, Ange is always going to go to Kyogo, and I see no qualms in saying that because Kyogo is an absolute fucking fantastic player. One of the best strikers I've seen at Celtic Park in the last 15 years. No doubt about it. So I've no qualms with Kyogo starting every game. Especially when the manager can see that some games it does need something different, and that's what O will eventually bring. But yeah, if he wants to be taken seriously as Celtic's number one striker, more like Kyogo than Giakoumakis.
James, a question I want to ask you, mate. So obviously last season was Ange's first season at Celtic. He clearly was building a team in his kind of image, his style, his philosophy. We had an issue with Livingston. We dropped points to them back to back. I think the first time we drew, did we? No, sorry. The first time we get beat at Almondvale. Second time we drew, and we had issues again. We kind of struggling to break down the defence. Kyogo was struggling to get by. They're big defenders. This kind of thing. We were just aiming in crosses to Kyogo, who's 5'7", 5'8" against big 6'4" cloggers. It didn't work. Then you fast forward to this season, and you've got a kind of similar situation. Well, what was said it was a similar situation with St Mirren, because obviously St Mirren beat us in September. They're now the team that everybody's the go-to in the media. You know, let's go St Mirren, you can do it again. Ange has changed it. Ange has changed it up. He's brought in O. He's brought in a guy who can come in and mix it up with their defenders. So do you think this is a progression in Ange's kind of coaching at Celtic? You know, is he learning from the mistakes at St Mirren? Is he learning from the mistakes at Livingston? Does he know like that you can't persist on maybe playing Kyogo for 90 minutes when it's not working, and he's got to bring on a sub? Because for me, his substitutions this season by and large have been very, very effective, and it happened today as well again. So do you think this is the evolution of Ange, even in his kind of his elder years as a manager?
I definitely. I think that's one thing, one of many things that you can praise him for, is that he does seem to learn from his mistakes. Just to go back to last week at Hampden, the Sakala with his pace, that's literally all he's got, and we've seen it the game, the last game against them last season at Parkhead, where he basically breaks through and scores the equaliser in the game we would have essentially won the league. Last week, obviously, he's playing again, but I don't want to say we doubled up on him, but it felt as if Hatate was kind of marshalling him, stopping him getting forward. So he does definitely seem to kind of learn for his mistakes. That's probably harsh, but learn for the past. As for the day, I'd still give St Mirren some credit. I mean, the last game where they bet is, if you look at the team, obviously it was saying the day, our starting centre backs were Welsh and Jens. So, I mean, Jens was not a bad player, but obviously it's Miles, Af, Carter, Vickers and Starfelt. So I think that's probably the one game this season, well, obviously because we get bet, but whereby you would probably properly question the team selection. When the team came out that day, I think everybody was kind of obviously a bit taken aback. But as for the day, what we're saying about Kyogo, very similar again to last week. Up until Kyogo scored, I know he had the header just out of the bar, but up until Kyogo scored last week, he probably lucky if he touched the ball twice. And then obviously goes on and gets a double, shuts everybody up, man of the match, lifts the cup. So, look, what do we know? And then again, last week, he takes Kyogo off and brings on O, where he scored at 2-1. But you've got absolute full confidence in the manager's decisions. I mean, taking Hatate off as well, arguably player of the season, takes him off as well, and then it doesn't really make a difference. Speaking about last week, the game was probably more comfortable after that. But in terms of like breaking sides down, I think it is evolution, but evolution just in the sense of he's been here longer. The players have been here another year with him. They know his tactics. It's no like last year the fullbacks were pretty much playing exclusively as centre midfielders. Now they are switching up. They're going out wide. They're scoring the cutbacks every week pretty much. So I think it's just came through time more than anything, and the players just getting properly used to Ange's style.
Again, the same kind of question to you, mate. Same lines as that. Again, harking back to last season with Postecoglou, albeit his first season, there was times that we were crying out for the manager to kind of change the game and show the game up. And he's did that a couple of times this season, and he's did it again today when he's brought on Iwata, who's obviously seen as more of a kind of defensive midfielder. So are you happy to see that Postecoglou's actively kind of trying to put in more of a balance there? Because obviously you can put on as many attacking players as you want, but at times you still need to close up shop. You can't just go and obliterate teams all the time because you need to expect possibly a counter for the other team. But again, I think he's shown his kind of his attributes as a manager, that he is, coming to terms with having to bring in a slight balance. Iwata, what do you think about the substitution? Are you happy to see a kind of more steadier ship kind of happen?
Yeah, Ange as a manager has developed in his 18, 20 months that he's been at Celtic now. And I believe he's done that, from what I understand from the guys, 18, 20 months ago when we were all a bit unsure about Ange. And you had the Australians coming on telling us we don't know fuck all about football. Ange develops as he goes. Evolution is a good word for it. And I think you can see that at Celtic. I want to go back touching on what James was saying with the fullbacks. And more so Taylor than anybody else. Taylor last year was forever trying to cut into that central midfield role. And we do still see it. But this year, you've seen Taylor more and more get into that left wing spot, get into the byline, getting that cut in. And that's something you didn't see much from Ange last year. It was a lot more inverted fullbacks. And I think he's developed naturally. I don't know if he'll admit it himself, but he's naturally developed from the inverted fullbacks to still being there, of course, but they're allowed to go back wide again when we're on the attack. I think the players are learning that role as well. That defensively, or when we're in transition, they act as midfielders, they invert in. But once we go on that attack, the fullbacks know to go out wide again and give that support. Alistair Johnston's absolutely fantastic at it as well. With Iwata, I think it's still early days to know what he can bring. Similar to O, it's still early days. He's not had enough game time, Iwata, for me to make a real call on him. But he's not doing anything wrong either. He's not doing enough to say, got to get him a start next week. But he's not doing enough wrong to say, fuck me. James McCarthy's coming to the side. You'll be like, oh, fuck. He's not doing that to us yet. But he needs to do something if he wants to get into the midfield more often. But as it stands, Ange seems to be evolving with the times as well. I think I said this a few weeks back with the holding midfielder in Iwata. We tried it with McCarthy. We've kind of half tried it with Moy, who's now found his own place in the midfield. But we tried it with Abelgard as well. We've had 3 different defensive midfielders to try and come in for Ange to acknowledge that he needs it, but he's trying to find the one that fits his style. And we're slowly but surely getting there, getting closer to it. It's whether or not, in the long term, Iwata is going to be good enough to step up to the big games in Europe. We all know Hatate and McGregor can. It's whether or not Iwata can, to make a midfield 3 that would be a kind of strong defensive unit, but also in the big games be able to turn the game over and go forward. That's what we kind of need for the European games. Domestically, we just need 3 midfielders who are competent, to be honest, because the intensity of the attack that we can bring is always going to win 95, 99% of the games that we play. So evolution really is a good word for it, because you're seeing it slowly change with that choice of defensive midfielder, and you're seeing the inverted fullbacks become more wider attacking players. You're seeing it all evolve and all adapt over the course of the time. And long may it continue under Ange that he continues to evolve and adapt the team, because as that happens, keeps everybody on his toes. Hopefully we get better for Europe.
Totally agree. Just before we move on for the last 15 minutes or so, if you haven't done it, give us a wee like, subscribe, YouTube channel, join us on Twitter at Jungle Gyms Pod. You'll see at the bottom of the ticker bar as well when it comes along. Check out the Kano Foundation. Absolutely brilliant foundation. Getting kids in to see Celtic. They do some amount of work, charitable work. It's an absolutely fantastic foundation. So the website's there. Go and have a wee check at them. And if you can, donate anything. Couple of pence, couple of quid, whatever it may be. It's going to a fantastic cause. And who was it? Stephen Kelly, Celtic women, BBC Alba, 4 p.m. versus Glasgow City. So jump on and give the females a bit of support. O sealed it off, 5-1 penalty. Brilliant turnaround, brilliant response for Celtic. Guys, I know somebody says you were watching it on Sky Sports. What was Fat Boy Boyd like at the end of the game?
I never seen it, but as we were saying, he had a wee hand shandy at half time. I'm guessing he would have put it away for full time, but I never got to see it.
McGinters.
I know, likewise, somebody had a podcast set up for 5 minutes to 2, so I had no chance of seeing anything.
Well, let's just assume that you saw it. Just imagine his face.
Oh, I can imagine a red rage, fuming, short quips, and not making much sense would be what fucking fat face Boyd would have been like. I can't believe earlier on I said
absolutely
that
raging probably as well.
I've been raging. Fucking fat
so,
fuck.
I'm sure a lot of supporters of the dark side would have saw the score. They would have been in jubilation. Unfortunately, get it up east because it never stayed like that. That now means that 27 games in, Celtic are back to 9 points on top with 76 points. Their closest rivals on a great number at 67. What's that? 8 games left. 8 games left.
Not 8 wins.
8 wins.
To win the league.
8 wins to be...
8 wins, sorry.
8 wins to be classed as champions, 11 games to
8 wins. Wins in the league.
Theoretically, if you assume that we win every game, that means they have to lose one game at least if we win that game. So it would actually work out as technically less than that, I think. But I think somebody worked it out that if we win every game and they win every game apart from the obvious one that we have to play against them, it's something like the first 2 games of the split is when we would win it. So they'd have to push the Hun game to the 3rd or 4th game of the split. Otherwise, they'd run the risk that we'd win it against them or go there next game as champions.
Well, sure that won't happen. There's our Gavin on at the bottom. Boyd maintained that the referee was spot on with both calls. He was trying to wind up Walker with little success. So I'm sure he'd have been raging. Again, I'm sure that the Orc gang would have been raging. Great day at the office, great turnaround. Absolutely delighted. Right, quick question, boys. I'll start with you first, James. We usually do the baller and the ball bag of the week on a Tuesday night, but we'll do it today because we've only on Tuesday. So, baller of the week and ball bag of the week from yourself, James.
Oh, you put me on the spot here. I will give the baller of the week, well, for last week, as we went here on Tuesday to Kyogo for the obvious. Maybe not so much today, but I'll give it for last week. Ball bag of the week has got to go to the used car salesman from across the water. Big Del Boy, he needs a camel coat. Fucking honest to God, man. Did you see the thing on Twitter, Parkley? I think it was that Tam Selleck's on. Brilliant. You seen it?
No, I did not.
Oh, I'll need to send you it, man. Brilliant. Have a wee look for it. But him, fucking guy's a tadger, isn't he? As I says, they came out after last week and they were slating his team selection. the guy's claim to fame was being Steven Gerrard's brains, and they're only now realising that he's a fucking idiot. So, I mean, took a wee bit longer than most, didn't it? But aye.
McGinty.
Like,
Hard to disagree, and I'm trying to think if we're getting it for last week, who do we get it for as opposed to getting it for today's game? It's hard to disagree with ball bag of the week being fucking Mick Beale. I mean, or the general media, because that was phenomenal amount of fucking bigging up that they did the week leading up to the cup final game. You know, the jizz across Scottish media was unbelievable for a week, and all of a sudden it was didn't want to win the cup anyway. What are you talking about? It was absolutely hilarious. The backtracking is phenomenal. It was just great. Unfortunately, we had to see them fucking win yesterday, and all of a sudden they're back to being world beaters. But you know, spending a week of listening to them realize how shit they fucking are was glorious. So, ball bag of the week to Mick Beale would be an absolute agreement. As for baller, I'm going to stick with Hatate. I still think Hatate is an absolute fucking baller, and I'm kind of added in overall the last few weeks in the performances, but I just think Hatate is an absolute fantastic player. Best player Celtic have right now, technical wise.
Right, I think I'll counter that then. Well, no counter it as such, but I'll add into it. I'm going to pick based on today because I think you've covered last week. Ball bag of the week, David Dickinson. Horrendous name, horrendous face, horrendous referee. Baller of the week. I'm sure you're going to love this one, McGinty. I'm going to give it to Postecoglou. Postecoglou for.
Honestly, I thought you were going to say Abada.
I was going to say it. I just waited for you. I just peeled you right in there. No, Abada. I'll get to Abada for his performance today. I think he did come on, changed the game, but at the same time, who was the man that put him on? Big Ange.
Well, this is true. If the manager's going to take the flack when it happens, he takes the plaudits when it does as well.
So, Big Ange gets my baller.
See, just on David Dickinson, was it David Dickinson? Would I be right in saying it was either the Burnaby penalty or the O'Reilly penalty that he gave as well? So he has got previous. It was one of them, and then I think he was on VAR for the other because out the kind of current crop. And it is the slimmest of slim pickings, but I would have him probably as the worst. And he seems to have appeared out of nowhere. He was never one of the kind of your Clancy's or Beatons. He was never one of the big hitters, but he's kind of flew under the radar. But he seems to be, well, for me at least anyway, he seems to be the worst now. And then obviously you've got
I think you're right there. I think you're right there with being him, and I want to say he must have been the Burnaby one because there's a period at the start of VAR where I think we went 3 weeks in a row that the referee we had the next game, that same referee was the fucking VAR assistant, which would have made Dickinson the Burnaby referee and then the fucking O'Reilly VAR assistant. We used to ref games in the championship. Aye, fucking get him back in there. He's not a good referee by any stretch. He was all over the place today. Take it back to the fucking handball situations and the kicking the ball away. How he spots the handball by the St Mirren player at the halfway line, watches the player kick the ball away in frustration, doesn't book him. Yet later on in the game, because the player kicks the ball away, he remembers, oh shit, book the ball away is a yellow card offence, better book you. That level of inconsistency, isn't he just between all the rest? That's just a really fucking piss poor fucking referee on the whole. That you can't be consistent within one game to say, like, if you book the ball away, I'm going to book you. I think I saw a stat. We got to about 10 fouls against us, and they hadn't been booked yet. Any single St Mirren player, ridiculous. They're not the dirtiest team, St Mirren. They're not the worst team, but they did play that first half pretty much to disrupt us and stop us playing football. How they didn't get more bookings in the first half is absolutely beyond me. Apart from the fact that dick by name, dick by nature.
I can't disagree with that. I think for what I saw the day, which was the second half, the referee, the linesmen, and whoever it was in the VAR team were very, very poor. I mean, the first real poor decision that I saw and I'm sure it was in the second half. I can't remember the highlight, but you guys will be able to tell me. The one where Marcus Fraser hauls down Jota with the shot.
Yes, second half.
It's the second half. So Ryan Fraser's got his arms around him, and he's got a hold of him. He's got a proper clenched fist, hold his shot, trails him to the ground, not even as much as a free kick. And then you look at O's penalty. Now O's running forward, and you can see it as clear as day. The defender is literally pulling him back like a fucking bit of elastic band. And it then takes our linesman, our referee, and our VAR team 2.5 minutes to make a decision when it's as clear as day. That is poor. That is so fucking poor.
And really poor. The Marcus Fraser thing was absolutely baffling. His arm comes over. He's pulling Jota's shirt so much that his shirt comes up and behind. While Jota's in front, how's that not a free kick? And yet, even the commentators brush it off as if, well done, Marcus Fraser, sort of thing. It's a fucking foul. It's a booking. It's mental how this shit isn't getting fucking called out. The inconsistency within one game is unbelievable, let alone that we can all claim inconsistency between how we get officiated and how fucking Connor Golson gets officiated.
Is that the same incident we were talking about in the group chat with the offside where the guy smashes into the post? Was that the same kind of?
No, that comes later on, and I've still yet to understand this one because I've got 2 points to make about that one, where the ball comes out to Jota and roughly in the same position where that non-foul happened. So Marcus Fraser, I think it is, clatters with the post, hits his knee. You clear as day when you see it, and in real time, it's not a head knock. It's a leg hits the post. So the game should have never been stopped if that's what it was stopped for. But the ball goes then, I think a shot gets taken, and then the guy clears it off the line, and it comes all the way back out to the left-hand side, to which point Jota runs, I believe, technically from off the pitch. And this is where there'll be some loophole of nonsense, but I don't see how. And he comes back on, and he collects the ball. There are two things. One, Marcus Fraser is literally against the post on the line. He plays the entire pitch onside. Two, the defender clears the ball off the line with a clear effort and attempt to play the ball. Thus, can't be offside because no Celtic player played the ball last. How's it offside? Absolutely baffling.
Right. See, even out with their actual decisions, and Willie Collum is by far and away the worst for this at Parkhead. But see where they actually stand, see where they take up position. See at Parkhead, fucking Willie Collum man marks Callum McGregor out the game. It is constant. It is terrible, man. Get them on strike again. Get the fucking, was it Pharaoh? The Pharaohs in the last time.
I'm sure Dixon did the same with Hatate again in the second half. He was standing in a position where the ball was coming from. It was being defended, so it was coming from the St Mirren side back into the middle. And Hatate, I think it was, trying to collect it, and he was going to then pass it out to Starfelt. And fucking Dixon's about 3 yards away, just kind of like, oh yeah, I'm just here. He's like, get the fuck out of the way. Be aware of the fucking game.
See, talking about that as well, something's telling me it was Willie Collum, but did one of your players not clean out a referee a couple of weeks ago?
Oh, we've done it a couple of times, we've been thankfully.
Did somebody not take out Willie Collum the game at Ibrox as well in the lead up to the goal?
I can't remember.
Something's
telling me it was Willie Collum.
That was one each, wasn't it? Two each? One each? What's scored at? What's one each, wasn't it?
Two each.
No, it was two each. Kyogo and Maida.
I've seen that. It's fucking hilarious, Tam. I'm pretty sure the fucking Kilmarnock player is in front of the Rangers player, and the Rangers player fouls the Kilmarnock player somehow, and yet Rangers get a penalty out of it when the Kilmarnock player is actually in front of them. It's fucking mental.
So I wonder who won the penalty bingo yesterday. 45 minutes. Collect your winner. So again, absolutely fantastic day at the office for Celtic. And that leads us into next week. And in the league, we are at home to Hearts. Wednesday, the 8th of March, and it's a 7:15 kickoff. And then on the Saturday, it's a kind of back-to-back against Hearts. We play them in the quarterfinals at Tynecastle. First and foremost, are we going to be doing a post-match pod for at least Wednesday?
You guys can. Unfortunately, I'm missing it.
I'm missing the game altogether on Wednesday. I've got to see Jim Jeffries at the Armadillo.
The Hearts manager.
Aye, he's doing an after dinner. No, Canadian, I think he is. No, Australian Canadian. Got to see him. Fucking didn't realise it was the same night, man. So I will not be there.
Well, if we can do it, we'll try and put a wee kind of update on the YouTube page. But apart from that, we'll be back for Tuesday. We missed it last week. Obviously, we're just human. We've got commitments. Sometimes we can't make it. That's just your Donald Duck. But the majority is, if not all of us, will be back on Tuesday for the Tuesday TikTok, YouTube, 7 o'clock. So please tune in for that. And if you haven't done it already, give us a wee like, subscribe, share, Twitter page, Jungle Gyms Pod. We're on Twitch as well, I think, aren't we, McGinty?
One Twitch. I keep posting out there. Whoever keeps looking around, thank you very much, whoever that is every so often, but it's not exactly the most used platform by us. It's a great platform if you're into that thing, but by us, it's one of the things we put it out there just because we can.
Well, that's it. We're here, we're there, we're everywhere. We're somewhere, at least. But obviously, first and foremost, thanks to the guys for tuning in. All the comments, keep them coming in as the shows go on, because the content's there for you. So please join in with the content and the show. But aye, brilliant day, beautiful Sunday. Go and enjoy yourselves for the rest of the night. Check out the Celtic women's game on BBC Alba, 4 o'clock, playing Glasgow City. Cheer on the girls. Look at some beautiful bum cheeks if that's what your bag is. Comprehensive win.
Do you reckon Big Starfelt will be there with Jacinta? You see that?
Maybe I certainly would. But no. Great day at the office, guys. And let's look forward to Tuesday night for the Jungle Gyms, Tuesday TikTok, and of course, back in action Wednesday against Hearts. So for all of us, thank you very much, and see you.